Look, you've been on top of this thing for a long, long time. All right, so you know way more of the details than any of these guys on people on Twitter on either side of it. Um, let's get kind of first down to brass tacks. How much of this is on San Diego's residents, tax-paying citizens, leadership, and how much of it is on the owner?
Well, I'd say that more of it falls on the owner because the owner of an NFL football team, a business of this magnitude, that person needs to be visible in the community, and he also needs to be a politician, although unelected. He needs to have relationships with all the power players in town, not just people that happen to have money, but people who have influence. And Doug, I'll tell you, Dean Spanos doesn't have the personality, doesn't have the desire to rub elbows with people, not just the influential people, just people in general. He's a very reclusive, bashful, shy kind of personality. Maybe he has some kind of social anxiety disorder for all I know. But the point is, he's not the kind of person that would get himself out there in politics. So, look, there's a lot of blame to go around here. The local politicians that are currently in office and those that have been in office for the last 20 years who themselves have sworn they'll never do anything to help the Chargers because they've gotten themselves into so many bad deals with the Chargers. But that's because they didn't have the level of sophistication to negotiate with people like Dean's father, Alex Spanos. But listen, Doug, there's a ton of blame to go around today. But today's one of these days where this city is just in agonizing pain.
I understand, and I hate to keep picking open old wounds, but like nationally, I think people should know kind of the story because this is a story that is kind of old as time, which stadium doesn't get built. And you go to a place where they'll build you a shiny new stadium. Now, it's different because it's L.A. and they already have a team. But this is, like, look, this is why the Colts left Baltimore, right? This is why the Raiders left L.A. because they were supposed to redo the Coliseum. They never redid the Coliseum. The Rams couldn't get a new building, couldn't get a new lease, and St. Louis moved mountains. And then they moved back because L.A. chose to do the same. So, like, we've seen this before. Let's start with their current location was in Mission Valley. And for people who don't know, it's like 15, 20 minutes from downtown. I've heard 10, but that's BS. You can't make it. You couldn't take a jet plane and make it in 10 minutes. But it's do you think that Mission Valley was a feasible site?
Well, I think it was feasible because people were already accustomed to going to football games there, and it had the land to accommodate the construction of a new stadium while simultaneously playing in the current stadium. So from my perspective, it was feasible. The Chargers have argued and would have continued to argue and did up until the very end argue that the land that the stadium currently sits on and the land around it has been so poorly taken care of and has been so greatly contaminated that it would take hundreds of millions of dollars to not only fix the land and deal with all of the environmental issues there, but that it was way too cost prohibitive to do all of those sorts of things because it was apparently below a flood line. This is all according to the Charger side. Flip it around, Doug, and the city said, we've done an environmental impact report. We have proven to you that the land is good and it's ready to go. The city would say, we own this land and we're willing to do a really beneficial deal to keep you guys here. So it was that ongoing divorce, right? She has her story, he has his story, and that was the story here. Dean and the Chargers said that the land was no good and this was the poor site for a new stadium, and the city said the land is fine, we own it, go ahead and build it.
So the truth is that Dean wanted to get downtown, right? Like Petco, they wanted to get downtown because gas lamp and the success of Petco, right? Build a bunch of skyscrapers around it and change the city that way. Is that a fair estimation?
I think it's a completely fair estimation. I think when you look at cities like Seattle, for example, or Pittsburgh, where you have the football stadium and the baseball park right next to each other, it revives or brings to life that part of town. And I think what Dean and the NFL were thinking about back then was, imagine a Super Bowl in downtown San Diego, right, where you can utilize the baseball park and the convention center, and everybody is on foot this would be the perfect location for it. And, Charger fans fought that notion. They said, we don't want the downtown stadium because we're going to lose our tailgating. It's a big part of what we do here in San Diego. The weather's good. We can tailgate all year round. And what I tried to explain to Charger fans was go to Seattle, go to New Orleans, downtown facilities. People still tailgate. They go to the parking lots. They break out their barbecues. They raise their flags. Tailgating can happen even if it's not in a circular parking lot.
It was the deal, and I pointed out to people like, look, the convention center was part of the deal. That's one of the escapes for Spanos to have to pay for the whole thing, as well as the fact that it would have brought in a Super Bowl, a Final Four, maybe an NBA All-Star game, all to that because everybody wants to go to San Diego. But there was 16% added on tax onto room charges for somebody who's visiting. So it wouldn't directly impact San Diegans, but that's a big number. And if they don't meet the debt service, somebody does have to pay. Was the deal good enough from your perspective? It's always going to be a bad deal with these teams. Always. Was it good enough from your perspective that it should have passed?
Well, I loved the concept, which was raise hotel room tax rates, take that extra money. So currently, a hotel tax is 12% here in San Diego, which is way, way, way under cities like San Francisco, L.A., Irvine, and places in California, not to mention places like Houston, 17%, San Diego, 12%. It was a great idea to take that extra money and build a stadium and convention center. But you see, the relationship between the ownership of the Chargers and the city of San Diego, not just the mayor, not just the city council. I'm talking about the people of San Diego. The relationship was so splintered that people didn't trust the Chargers. And let's face it was a very rushed election. It was only a couple of months. There was virtually no campaigning. It was a great idea. Let's charge people from out of town more money for hotel rooms. But you know what the biggest resistance was? It wasn't just from the people who own the hotels who said, how dare you tax my business to pay for your business? There was some of that. The next part of it was people saying, but wait a second, if we're going to raise this hotel room tax rate by 4% and we're going to raise all this extra money, why are we building a stadium with it? Why aren't we hiring more cops? Why aren't we building more fire stations? Why aren't we fixing our roads? Why aren't we putting more money into other things that a city would need other than a football stadium? Now, of course, from my perspective, I thought it was the most brilliant thing that could have ever come.
That's what Vegas is doing.
It's really not a public subsidy, right? It let the out-of-towners pay for it. But it was not a well-run campaign, Doug, and most people think and assume, by the way, that the campaign was nothing other than $10 million of marketing money, and you marketed that you were trying to stay so that the fans would continue to support, when in actuality, the decision had been made a long time ago to get out of here.